On today's episode of Refashioned, we're talking about the Topshop relaunch that is very confusing and very divisive. A couple of pieces of content I've come across recently that address the death of microtrends and also how TikTok has rotted our sense of personal style. The H&M AI model drama, and I have thoughts on this. And a whole bunch of other topics, obviously, but they're my main headliners and we need to get into them. Before we do, welcome back to my podcast, Refashioned, where we dig into a lot of different topics happening in fashion right now. Most of them aren't big enough to be a whole video on their own, so I kind of like shove them all in here. And some of them are like developing and I'm kind of getting your guys' initial thoughts on them and I might turn them into a video later. I don't know, it's a very loosey-goosey kind of podcast and it's always fun. So make sure you're subscribed to me on whatever you listen to your podcast on, or if you're watching this on YouTube, then hit the subscribe button on the channel. And with that, let's get into it. Starting with the Topshop relaunch drama, because I don't think anyone actually knows what's going on. If you weren't watching, if you don't know what's going on, because I didn't, I think basically Topshop uploaded a video to their Instagram that was like, "We missed you." And everyone went crazy. Like everyone was immediately buzzing about what this could mean, about whether this meant they were reopening their Oxford Street store or doing another collection with Kate Moss, or just like, you know, bringing back Topshop. Although this did quite confuse me because Topshop hasn't been dead. It's been on ASOS for a while and just like kind of existing under the ASOS brand. But I know that ASOS sold their stake in it a little while ago, I think. So whether this meant like they were, you know, kind of relaunching as a new brand, no one really knows. Topshop really didn't make it clear. And then a couple of days later, they did a post that was like a treasure hunt around Oxford Street. And that seemed to be the big announcement. And people were quite disappointed about that. But in their caption for that like treasure hunt announcement, they had, and let me get the specific phrasing, "To show our appreciation for your support and whilst you wait for our next big move." So like that next big move, I think they haven't ruled out the fact that Topshop is relaunching. So clearly that has some people excited. Other people, like the subscriber that sent me all of this news, are wondering why we need this, why we need a relaunch of Topshop. And I have so many thoughts here because I am sort of the generation, I am sort of in the camp of the nostalgic Topshop era. My teens spent going into the Oxford Street store, shopping Topshop like almost religiously. Maybe rose-colored glasses for me, but it does kind of hold like a place in my mind of Topshop was a good store in its heyday. Yes, it was fast fashion. No, it didn't have any ethical principles, but this was at a point before I really knew all about that. So this was my initial sort of thought when I heard the news. It was like, oh my gosh, Topshop is back. But I think that is what Topshop are depending on. This kind of reliance on people's nostalgia for the brand that had its heyday like 10 years ago, and really banking off the fact like, we know you missed us and like, we know you've been asking for us, as their marketing strategy. And seeing their pictures on their Instagram since this announcement, I think you can just tell that the collection itself isn't really going to be anything to write home about. Like the nostalgia is really what they're banking on here. I don't know how they're going to be different from any other fast fashion brand. They're already jumping on trends. Like I saw them already pushing the butter yellow trend, something you could probably find from any other fast fashion store. I think they're also trying to go for this like quiet luxury pipeline that PLT is just rebranded with. It's very like toned down. The colors are muted. I guess it just doesn't look different to any other brand right now, is my main point here. So I'm just asking why we need it. And so was the subscriber that sent it to me. Her literal words were, why do we need this? Because another fast fashion brand doing the exact same as the others is just putting more waste out there into the world. And I think a really important point here is to understand that in the UK at least, Topshop was a massive deal when it was around. Everyone loved it pretty much. They had big famous collaborations with the likes of Beyonce and Kate Moss. They had Gigi modeling their clothes, and I think, if I remember rightly, some Kardashian sisters. Like they had big names behind the brand. But the other thing they had going for them was the quality of the items. Again, I don't know if I'm looking back on this with rose-tinted glasses, but I think my old Topshop clothing held out really well. I actually do think I have a Topshop top still, which is interesting. And I would have bought that when I was like 16 at the latest. So that's kind of crazy, like 9 years. Oh my God, 10 years. I'm 26 now. Yeah, a top that has lasted 10 years that still feels like really good, thick quality. And I think is like minimal use of polyester. I'd have to check it. But yeah, I think that's kind of crazy to compare that to the clothes we're seeing today and like the average amount of time someone keeps clothing today from a fast fashion brand, because Topshop was still a fast fashion brand. But I think based on not actually seeing what their products used at the time, just my like remembered ideas, their quality is so much better than today's. So that is interesting. However, it does not mean that their quality of the clothing they're going to be producing today in 2025 is going to match that old quality that I believe we had. And I think that's something that actually people are asking the brand about, because like I said, the quality of it is quite well known. So I saw some comments of people saying like, please bring back the quality of the olden days, kind of hinting that people believe that this is going to be a fast fashion brand that turns to polyester, I think. I also saw someone else saying like, I still buy old Topshop on Depop and Vinted because the quality is so good. So I don't think I'm imagining this perceived quality. It does seem to be a talking point online. The other issue I think is going to happen with Topshop, just in my like mind, is that at one point in its heyday in the 2010s, Topshop was like a style leader. They kind of set the trends a bit. They were always like cutting edge. The perceived idea was that Topshop is the trendsetter. In today's world, we know that no brand is really the trendsetter. Like, yes, they can sort of maybe control some trends, but TikTok is the major trendsetter of today. If TikTok doesn't like it, then it's not gonna probably do well. So I don't really know how this is gonna play out if Topshop can't retake its place as a trend setter. Like, what is its contribution to the industry? Again, it goes back to that idea of just like another fast fashion brand that's following the same trends. What is your USP here? Especially if they're not going to bring back the old quality and just rely heavily on polyester, which I think from some items I've seen is the case right now. They've got a lot of polyester in their collections. I mean, there's also so many concerns over their sustainability. Right now on Good On You, they're rated not good enough. And I believe this is for their work under the ASOS brand umbrella, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly they have a lot of work to do. Maybe this will be included in the rebrand. I'm gonna bet it isn't. And so again, it's just more fast fashion. And I saw Venetia Lamana leave a comment under one of these Topshop account announcements saying, new era, new ethics, which, yeah, I think we should all be doing. We should all be calling for the brand to, you know, if they're gonna make a comeback, to make an actual meaningful comeback rather than just add to the sea of polyester right now. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts and my kind of initial reactions to the Topshop news. But anyway, onto a TikTok I saw now, which made me grapple with TikTok's impact in real life. Because, okay, when I talk about TikTok trends on this channel, when I just talk about any kind of trend, I get a lot of comments saying like, okay, but this doesn't happen in real life, or like TikTok is not real life. Regular people aren't dressing like this. And this TikTok is showing an influencer event. So not really like an everyday typical sort of situation where you could actually observe people's regular outfits, sure. But this is an IRL event where the TikTok algorithm is just so plain to see. And to be clear, I'm not being mean to anyone in this video who's, you know, wearing this outfit, because I have worn this outfit on so many occasions. It's a very like classic go-to staple outfit, especially in London where a trench coat in spring is kind of a uniform. But is this not a wake-up call to everyone dressing the exact same? Like, I don't think I've seen such a powerful example of TikTok algorithm in real life before. I know we all talk about it. We all talk about how people are dressing the same, but this is like literally just right there in front of your eyes. You're not imagining anything. Like, this is 20 women in a room all wearing a white t-shirt, jeans, and a trench coat. I think the other part of this is obviously the creator at the end kind of showing that she's like not wearing this and feeling really awkward about it. And like, I feel like that perfectly encapsulates a lot of anxiety for a lot of people of stepping out the box. Because like, I know, like, obviously I want to be unique in my dressing, or at least I don't want to be following trends in my dressing or dressing for the algorithm or whether I want to feel like what I've picked is for me. But whenever I have an event that I'm going to, my mind immediately always fixes on, okay, well, what will everyone else be wearing? How do I match their vibe so I'm not sticking out like a sore thumb? Like, even if you're not driven by TikTok trends, the social anxiety of the situation might mean that we're all conforming anyway because of the TikTok algorithms of a few. And that's just kind of crazy to me. I hope that this, along with like the personal style discourse, along with like the individuality trend going on in fashion, is kind of going to create this like wake up call that too many of us are dressing the same. However, and I'm going to talk about this later on in the video, I am not hopeful, and like, there's a specific trend I want to call out. So we'll get to that. But first, I did a call out post for this podcast asking for submissions, one of which was for me to talk about online secondhand stores that I like. And I actually did a whole bunch of these in a video in summer, I think, the end of summer. So like, go ahead and watch that video because I did do like a whole big topic on how to thrift online and like where the best stores are and like how to like even search on these stores. But I have like an almost updated list that I will include just because you asked. So I think my overall platforms, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the video, that I kind of go to first because they pull in results throughout the internet, so you don't have to worry too much about like going individually, is Benny and the Gem app. Like, you can search stuff on there and they will pull in results from maybe not all of the internet, but like a big majority of the internet, and you can like be really specific and see what comes back. So those are good for like quick searches of like, you know exactly what you want. You just want to see like the closest resemblance to what you want. And then I have some other favorites that I use to more like browse, one of which is Curate and Rotate, which I know I mentioned in the video, but I still really enjoy them. I do find that their style is quite quiet luxury-esque, so I've yet to buy anything from there, but I really like how curated it is. And the same for Retold Vintage, which is another store that again does this like curation, and I have been eyeing up a pair of earrings on Curate and Rotate for like 6-12 months. So yeah, I'm not like using it to impulse shop, but it's nice to see like what I could get. I also like browsing on Gong Nong Bing Vintage, which is a, I believe, vintage store here in London, but they also have an Instagram and they also have a Depop, and they like upload their photos to there and you can buy them online through the Depop. But yeah, they have some really cool one-off pieces, and I like going on there for inspiration and to try like treasure hunt something that I might like. I'm yet to have bought anything. So yeah, those are my recs. I wanted to show you guys my most recent Depop purchase, which is nice, which is a pair of Lexola sunglasses that I have been thinking about since spring last year. So a good like 10-12 months of wanting these and thinking about them, and I finally found a pair that was like, I think half off retail price. I'm not gonna lie, like something close to that, which is obviously such a win. So I'll pop them on. I know this is a podcast, but I always end up bringing something like visual that you have to like look at your screens for. So if you're not looking at your screens right now, these are basically squarish sunglasses with a yellow tint and a tortoiseshell rim. I think they're really cute. I'm really excited. I styled them already with this outfit in a TikTok and with my brown bag, and I thought it looked really, really cute. But literally since I got them, London has been really rainy, so I'm yet to wear them outside yet. So I'm really excited for that, and I'm hoping for some sun this weekend so I can. But yeah, I'm really excited with this purchase, and I'm happy I waited because obviously I got it so much cheaper, but also I knew I wanted these. So it was a nice little treat for me to reward myself with a secondhand purchase that I've been wanting for ages. Okay, moving on now to another cool thing I've been liking. I saw this YouTube video that really, really inspired me. I think it's really cool. The title of which is Creating a Digital Garden to End My Doom Scrolling. And if you've been watching the podcast recently, you can probably guess why I wanted to click on this title. I've been really obsessed with getting offline and basically just not being on social media so much. So that's what snagged me in, the title of this. But the video itself was really, really interesting. And I kind of feel like this is a little bit of a onion right now, because I'm talking about a video that's talking about another video, which was by this original creator that was talking about a note-taking app called Obsidian, and he did a really good deep dive into it. And then the creator I watched did a really nice reference to this, and then talked about how she's using it to cultivate her ideas, basically. And now I'm talking to you about how I'm using it to cultivate my ideas. So we're in an onion right now. We're in a little Russian doll of a YouTube wormhole, or whatever you want to call it. This video very much inspired me to not let my thoughts pass in and out of my head like I do. Typically what happens is I'll have an idea, I'll think, oh yeah, that's a really good idea for a video. I'll script the video on Notion, I'll film it, edit it, release it, and then I'll delete or archive that post from Notion because I'm like, well, I've talked about that on YouTube. So all of that research, all of those thoughts is kind of now defunct. I can just sort of let it go. And it kind of almost started to become like a trend cycle for me. Oh, this is what I'm obsessed with. This is what I'm thinking about right now for this video. Let me talk about that real quick. Let me get that all out my brain. And then let me just throw it away. And I didn't like that. And I really liked how in this video, the concept of holding on to your thoughts and letting them develop and letting them cultivate and letting them link to other pieces of your thoughts until you have a web of thoughts was kind of introduced. And I think this is not only going to help me my YouTube videos, because obviously everything links in fashion. You talk about, for example, the rise of skinniness in fashion, say, and there are so many avenues you can go down that kind of relate to this, the rise of conservatism in fashion, the rise of 2000s trends and how in the 2000s skinny was a thing, the rise of Ozempic, the rise of celebrities also doing this. There's so many facets to this one sort of little topic, and building a web of interconnected ideas is going to help that so much. But also, I feel like this is going to help me understand my overarching interests in life, I guess, the subjects I'm gravitating towards again and again. And I feel like I've been kind of keeping this in the back of my mind. I've been talking a lot about psychology, about economics, about political issues in fashion recently. And they keep cropping up for me because clearly I'm interested in them. But maybe I should be proving to myself I'm interested in them and keeping my thoughts and, doing something with them rather than letting them just pass out my head when I'm done with them. So that was a very long-winded explanation of this video, and the other two creators explained their the concept of this so much better, but I thought it would be a really good recommendation to you guys. But okay, back to the regularly scheduled bashing of fashion. Let's talk about H&M's AI models, because I got a request for the podcast topics that this would be mentioned. And I have so many thoughts. I had to write them all down because I just wanted to cover all of them. So let's dive in. If you don't know, H&M are apparently implementing AI twins to real life models. So the model is still going to be working, but they're going to have an AI counterpart that can also work on AI campaigns. And H&M is working directly with models and their agencies to create this. They've managed to announce this idea in the most annoying way possible, in my opinion. Basically, their headline is that they know this idea is going to be controversial. I don't like it. I don't like it. The reason I don't like it is because I feel like they think it dissolves them of responsibility. It dissolves them of criticism if they've already come out and kind of criticized themselves. Like saying like, oh, we know it will be controversial. Well, if you know it's going to be controversial and you know people are going to have issues with it, then should you have done it in the first place? Should you not be like trying to address those issues a little bit more? If you know that it's going to cause shockwaves and people are going to have issues about your ethics, then maybe this idea is not ready to happen. Like in their press release, the company acknowledged they don't yet know all of the impacts this approach will have on the models and the other workers who make fashion imagery possible. I feel like if that's the case, this like half-baked idea maybe needs to bake a little bit more, you know? Like maybe we should be striving to understand all of the impacts before we just throw it out there for, you know, AI's sake. Just saying like we don't know all the impacts makes this seem like a poorly thought out idea that is just meant to get them headlines and press coverage, and also like kind of do the cringy thing brands and companies are doing right now of implementing AI for AI's sake, just to like make consumers think that they're like cutting edge when the technology is just not needed. And like I know I have some people who care about AI in my subscribers, or like they've watched my videos or whatever, but I just personally don't agree with AI being used in creative campaigns where the work being created is not solving any kind of issue, it's just taking away jobs. Like I know that H&M have promised that the models and the agencies are going to be worked with for these campaigns, and the models are going to be paid for their AI twins campaigns. But what about everyone else that comes together to make a campaign? The photographer, the assistants, the lighting and tech people, the director. Like there's just so many more people than just a model that depend on this like livelihood of campaign shooting. And the only mention of that is in H&M's press release saying like, we don't know what the impacts will be on all of these people. How is that? Like, how did you think that was okay to write down? Like to admit that you just haven't cared? I have a lot of questions about this content too. Not only does it make me angry, it also makes me apprehensive. Like, will this AI content be clearly marked on the like website page when consumers are going to buy? Because last time I did a podcast, I talked about a similar issue happening in AI, but I raised the same issue of like, these things contain clothes. And if these clothes are AI generated, then how does that work for consumers who are being pushed to buy these clothes? How do they know what it's going to actually look like on a human body when it's been rendered on a computer? Also, you cannot ignore the fact that the models being used by H&M in this press release are all very skinny. Like, where is the plus size in these campaigns? That makes me a little bit worried about the future of campaigns using these models if they can't figure out how to do plus size right now. And the fact that this is already an issue in real life campaign shoots does not give me confidence that we're going to fix it for AI campaigns either. Surely fashion can see that they're fixing the wrong issues. If we can't even figure out diversity and inclusion in real life, why are we turning to the internet to fix a problem that doesn't actually exist? People already do this job. Why are we letting AI do this? Okay, so moving on, I wanted to show you this Instagram reel of someone explaining the death of microtrends and like a post-brain rot era and how that's impacting fashion.
Looking back at the past few years, we can see that algorithms completely cooked our personal style. It's not just how exhausting it became to keep up with microtrends, always feeling like you're behind, your clothes never feeling relevant. It's that algorithms have a tendency to reward the most extreme opinions. In fashion, what this meant was that microtrends got further and further away from what people wore or even wanted to wear. Who exactly looked good in a bubble skirt? Fashion became a pure simulacrum that only really existed online. Nobody who wasn't an influencer actually dressed like this. As I mentioned before, I think we're heading into a post-brain rot era where IRL will become a status symbol. Dressing in microtrends has effectively become a low status activity because it's basically telling everyone you're chronically online. It's not fashion, it's cosplay.
Algorithms reward the most out there fashion choices And that's why fashion has reached the pinnacle of like microtrends and final bosses is just so true. And like I hadn't thought of it that way. I hadn't made that link before, but it makes so much sense. Also, the idea of microtrends being a signifier that you're chronically online and how as that's become low status, microtrends have become low status makes so much sense too. And I think this just fits in so well with the general trend of people moving to be more offline. All the cool girls are quitting Instagram pipeline that I'm seeing all over Substack, another kind of social media, and the general uptick in personal style and hobbies and like what that says about you. The creator of this video said that this was birthing a kind of like anti-trend, very like neutral approach to fashion, which is maybe the rise of quiet luxury, maybe it's the rise of like capsule wardrobes. But I have an alternative theory. I don't think it's as good, but I'm going to say it. I wonder if it's kind of inspiring this trend I've been seeing of being out there in a way that like no one else can kind of copy. And like my example for this was the girl that was saying her hobby of chainmail is going to come in handy for this kind of like historical trend. It's almost just like showing your kooky outfit that is so out there that like no one would want this to be a trend, rather than the trend being we're all copying the same outfits. The trend is that everyone is just wearing really like ugly fashion in an attempt to be completely individual from each other, and like kind of seeing that as personal style, when personal style doesn't really mean individuality, it just means what you like. And like I feel like it's almost birthing the wrong trend of being really, really extreme so that you stand out, and like almost convincing people to buy clothing that they don't want because they think it's so ugly that like no one else will ever copy them. I don't know. It's just a theory that I have that could happen, inspired by a couple of TikToks I've seen that like are kind of leaning this way. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you think this end of microtrend era will last. I think the other thing I wanted to talk about that fits quite neatly into this is that although I've seen a rise in this kind of content talking about like no one's wearing trends anymore, we're all caring about our personal style, there's always another side to the internet. And like this is so evidenced by the new like spring footwear trends that I've been seeing and like want to talk about next. This is inspired by another subscriber submission, so thank you guys for like sending these in. I love them. Follow me on Instagram where I do call outs for this. Basically the post was move over Sambas. These are the fashion crowd's new favorite trainers from Glamour UK. And they're talking about the Adidas taekwondos. And of course, we need to talk about the language here, because I think in particular, I've noticed that Glamour UK is really bad for this kind of like very pushy, impulsive language. Like this other example I found of them saying, everyone needs wide leg trousers in their capsule wardrobe, that I shared to my Instagram stories with like the caption of like, just a reminder, no you don't. No one needs anything in their capsule wardrobe that someone else is telling them they need. You just need what you need. And like, you know what you need. So don't let anyone sell you something you don't need. But as my subscriber said, this kind of language has so much knock-on effect. They said, picturing many people selling or throwing away their sambas for the new replacement. So tired of these type of articles. And I think, yeah, I have many thoughts on this, as I have many thoughts on everything. But one of them was the like language used here. As I said, very pushy, very impulsive, but you almost kind of expect that from a magazine. And I kind of just want to briefly talk about like the language we use to each other on TikTok and how we've adopted this like selling approach to each other and how much of an ick that gives me. Like I saw this TikTok talking about the new trend of taekwondo trainers, and it was like, maturing is realizing you need the taekwondos in your collection. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean maturing is realizing you need a specific type of trainer that's trendy right now? As if it isn't trendy right now, and as if you've always had them, or like as if you've reached like a pinnacle of thought independent from this being a trend. It's just such a lie we're selling to each other all the time. It's like you're trying to convince others you're more stylish and helping them get on your level because you've reached this like pinnacle of matureness by buying a trainer, when really we're just trying to sell to each other. And like we just why do we keep trying to disguise that fact? It's so obvious. Like, who's looking at this and realizing like, yeah, you know what, I just turned 26 and the first thing I thought was like, I'm missing Adidas taekwondos. That's a thought I independently had. No one's believing this. Like, The only thing this kind of talk is going to do is convince everyone that they need to move from one shoe trend, i.e. the Adidas Sambas, to another, i.e. the Adidas taekwondos, and the taekwondos will get to the same saturation point as the Sambas so that everyone then moves on to the next one in search of being different but also being on trend. And like, we're just, why do people subscribe to this? I don't understand. I'm getting myself worked up just from that TikTok language, because that really icked me. So more about the Adidas taekwondos then. One retailer has said that they are in pole position to be the it girl shoe of 2025. And I can definitely see why, seeing as one of the versions comes in this cowhide print that is so micro trend final bossy. Like, is it not? Is it not just going to be the same as like the leopard print Wales Bonner Sambas that like now look so dated already because they were just everywhere and they were the pinnacle of the leopard print trend that has now moved on to the cow print trend and like these taekwondos? Like, is anyone genuinely going to be wearing this in a year and not feeling like a TikTok micro boss? There are already Zara dupes of this shoe, just pointing it out. So, you know, that oversaturation is already, you know, well on its way. And I've also seen so many people in the comments of these videos telling them that they need to get this trend, saying like, I've just bought mine and I haven't worn them yet because I don't know how to style them. Like, so many comments I've seen of this. I didn't screenshot them all, but it was like a reoccurring theme. And I just don't understand how you've bought something without thinking about how you're going to style it first. I guess because of this slow fashion mindset, I don't let myself buy something for a number of months when I want it. And in that time period, I'm literally thinking of all the different ways I could style it so that when I get them, it's finally like, well, like, let's go. Like, I'm so ready. I just don't understand this. Like, you've seen a TikTok of someone telling you to buy a trainer, you've bought it without even thinking, and then you've like received it and you don't even know how to wear it. That's just... surely that's pinging like bells in your brain of like, what am I doing? I think the interesting thing about these taekwondo slippers kind of relates back to fashion and sports being so intertwined right now, and like fashion brands being obsessed with them. I think it's interesting that we're seeing like a sporty resurgence in fashion. I know that there's also a boxing shoe that was trending or is still trending. I don't know. The thing about this Adidas Taekwondo actually is that this has been trending for a while now. Like, I saw people wearing this back in September, and like it seems like it's just being picked up as the it girl shoe now. So that's quite interesting how long, like I think like it's quite interesting how you can kind of timeline it to the point of oversaturation. Like, all the Instagram it girlies, like the actual it girlies, were wearing this back in September. People have clocked on, and the people that now sell it to each other are picking up this trend and like making it oversaturate. I think that's interesting. I think maybe there's like a thought there that I want to explore, but maybe not right now because I've rambled too much. So yeah, last thought I want to leave you with is this TikTok reaffirming an idea that we all already kind of know in the back of our heads, but I think this is the first time I've heard someone say it aloud, talking about fast fashion.
I'm very convinced that buying fast fashion stuff is essentially a very expensive clothing subscription. That is my fashion conspiracy theory. I will die on this hill. When you use the use case of basics, a basic white t-shirt, it's around €12. Obviously, you get what you pay for, and it is made from mostly polyamide. I'm guessing this top's gonna last around 1 year before it starts to show signs of serious wear that you're not gonna like. For instance, yellowing, thinning of the fabric, pilling, fraying at the hems, holes, that kind of thing, which then means that in a year's time, you have to go back and you have to buy another €12 t-shirt. Maybe it's going to be €13 now because it's gone up in price. If we then stretch this out over a 10-year time span, you have now bought 10 t-shirts for around €12, which means that you have then spent €120 on t-shirts. Does this sound like anything to you? It sounds like a subscription. And most likely, at the end of that €120 spend, you're not going to have very much to show for it.
Why have I never thought of fast fashion as a clothing subscription before? That's such a good way to put it. Buy cheap, buy every month, and just like have this like rolling contract with fast fashion where you receive poor quality clothes that last for a couple of months and then you buy more from them. Why are we not framing it like this? I feel like this will make so much sense to a lot of people and help them kind of understand that this cheap buy mentality is not serving them in the long run. So I feel like we need to like all be spreading this message. I'm going to task you with that. Spread this message. And I mean, if you enjoyed this video, why not share it to someone you love and maybe they'll enjoy it too. Any kind of support you can leave for the channel, liking this video, commenting, sharing it, or just making sure you're subscribed is so appreciated. And I appreciate you for watching this far if you've got this far in the podcast. So thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Have a lovely day. Bye.